Karibu tena mtazamaji, tupo katika mdahalo mkubwa zaidi. Tunazungumza naye Esther Kariuki, mkubwa wa mashirika ya ukulima katika benki ya Cooperative. Tutazungumzia mengi sana. Karibu sana Esther kwa mdahalo huu. Wengi watataka kujua cooperatives ni nini na inahusu nini hasa kwa mkulima ambaye ni mdogo na anataka kupata kuelewa cooperatives.
Asante sana. Cooperatives ni ile principle ya watu kujiunga pamoja, kukuja pamoja, kushirikiana.
Okay.
Na wanashirikiana kufanya vitu tofauti. Kuna wale ambao wanashirikiana wanunue matatu ama gari za abiria ndio waweze kuleta pesa zao na kurahisisha kuweza kuingia kwa hiyo biashara. Na sasa kwa wakulima cooperative ni hiyo njia ya kuungana mkiwa wakulima ndio muweze kuweza kufanya biashara yenu ya ukulima iwe na mafanikio. Kama ni kutafuta soko, kutafuta kama fertilizer inputs ya kuweka kwa mimea yenu ama wanyama, kukuja tu pamoja ndio muweze kuweza kuwa na nguvu. Kufanya hiyo biashara.
Now for the young person who wants to get their footing into agriculture, all right, and they do not have collateral, probably they're leasing land or the land belongs to their parents. As a cooperative, what are some of the incentives you have for such a person? How can you help such a person when it comes to acquiring loan and being able to just take part in agriculture?
And exactly, your question is perfect. Because as a young person, there are so many things ideally that will be working against you. So for instance, perhaps the level of experience, if you're getting into agriculture, you're a new entrant. And so if you're just alone, you have to confront all those challenges: access to market, sourcing for input, looking for information, technical information on how to produce your crops alone. I mean, it's just too much. So when the young people come together, it's amazing because everybody brings their strengths. You'll find that in that group, to form a cooperative in Kenya, you just have to be 10 people who come together and form a cooperative. So amongst yourself, you have somebody who has a strength in finance, another person who has a strength in marketing, another person who has an interest in technology. And so the 10 of you are different, and your unique capabilities, you bring them together to be able to confront common challenges. So if it's marketing, the person who has a strength in marketing in that group will then take the lead. So as a young person, the easiest way to get into agriculture is really by coming together. And interestingly, when you come together and form a cooperative, the whole idea of even having a collateral becomes a non-issue, at least for us in Cooperative Bank. Because for us in Cooperative Bank, the concept of cooperation and coming together in itself is a collateral, because you guarantee each other. And so it lessens the requirement for collateral.
Kuna yule anayekusikiliza, anafuatilia mkulima vile vile, anashangaa ni vipi atajiunga na cooperatives? Kuna utaratibu ambao kunahitajika?
Kwa mkulima ambaye angependa kujiunga na ile cooperative ambayo already iko formed, and there are very many cooperatives in the country, huyo mkulima anaenda kwa ile shirika iko karibu na yeye, na serikali sasa iko na focus ya kuanzisha cooperative ambazo haziangalii tu mmea moja ama value chain moja. They are multi-purpose. So kwa kila kijiji lazima kukue na cooperative. Unaenda, unajiandikisha, unapatiwa requirements. Cooperative mingi ziko na requirements ya capital, ama pengine utakatwa ukishaleta mavuno yako. Na kwa wale ambao wangependa kuanzisha cooperative zao, pia ni sawa. Mnafaa tu kuwa watu 10, mkuje pamoja, muweze kujiunga na kuregister cooperative. Na cooperative iko devolved, imekuwa is a devolved function. So unaenda tu kwa county, kuna director wa cooperative, kuna sub-county cooperative officers, county director for cooperative, kwa hivyo hiyo utaratibu ya kujiunga na kuanzisha cooperative imekuwa rahisi sana kwa sababu iko kwa at the county level. Yeah.
Now, let's say you succeed in getting a loan. We're here, we've decided to come together and start coffee as a group, and it's finally successful. Does the grace period vary when it comes to paying of the loan? Because I might choose to do coffee, which I know will take 2 years thereabout to mature. Somebody else is going to do French beans, which is a hot 45 days. So what happens when it's time to pay the loan? Do you consider the time for what you're doing in agriculture?
So for us in Cooperative Bank, because we've been doing the business for agriculture for a long time, I don't know whether you know that Cooperative Bank was started by farmers in the 60s. You were not there, neither was I. And the farmers then in the 60s knew the importance of access to finance and access to credit and access to financial solutions, saving, insurance, borrowing. And so in the 60s, you can imagine, we'd just come from independence. So access to credit then was much harder than now. And so the farmers came together to cooperate and start a bank. And one of the things that they then did by understanding the concept of having a bank that understands agriculture is the repayment of any loan has to be timed with when the cash flows come. So for instance, in coffee, we do not expect farmers to pay back their loans until they harvest and they sell and the money come. So if it's input loans, which we finance them to access input as basic as manure, fertilizer, chemicals, we go through the entire cycle of the coffee until they harvest, it's processed, they sell, and the money comes and they pay. So it takes 1 year. If it's horticulture, depending on the crop cycle, again, we time it when the cash flows are coming. So really, that's the grace period. Yes.
Umezungumzia fertilizer, mbolea hapo. Wakati huu kulikuwepo na subsidy kutoka kwa serikali. Sasa kwenu unaona kwamba wale waliokuja kuchukua mkopo wa kufadhili masuala ya mbolea ilikuwaje?
Tunashirikiana vizuri sana na serikali. Kwanza kabisa wakulima ambao wako kwa cooperatives ama kwa vyama vya ushirika, hata kama fertilizer iko subsidized, iko ile pesa lazima mkulima atoe. Kwa sasa fertilizer ni 2,500. Kwa hivyo hiyo 2,500 lazima mkulima alipie. Sasa wanakuja, wanajiandikisha kwa cooperative zao, alafu cooperative yao inaleta hiyo request kwa bank. Sisi tunalipa kama ni KNTC, ama ni NCPB, ama ni KPCU, tunawalipia hiyo 2,500. Alafu tunangoja wakati watavuna, ndio tulipwe hiyo 2,500. Kama serikali ingekuwa mwaka iliyopita serikali walikuwa wanafanya 40% subsidy, 60% mkulima anatoa. Sasa hiyo 60% ndio tulikuwa tuna match, nayo serikali inatoa 40, na hiyo yote inapitia kwa cooperative za wakulima.
So currently, are there any incentives you're putting in place to make agriculture lucrative and enticing for young people to participate in?
Yes. As a bank, interestingly, Cooperative Bank is quite youthful as well. The staff in cooperative are also youthful in themselves. We have a very high rate of millennials who work in Coop Bank. So it becomes very easy, even when we are tailor-making products, like myself and the team that work in agriculture, they are youthful people. So when we are designing the products for farmers, it becomes easy to design products that will interest youth. For instance, one of the things that we have done, particularly in coffee sector and in line with the ongoing coffee reforms, is supporting farmers access digitization. And the cooperatives access digitization, computers, digital weighing scales, access to mobile app-based data collection tools. Obviously, when you talk about digitization and technology, you really are now talking to the youth. So what we have found is, even though cooperatives in Kenya are known to really be the average age of a farmer is 60, 65, but the people who work in the cooperatives are quite young because they are tech savvy and technology has become a necessity in the cooperative. So we are finding youth working in the cooperative, collecting data, weighing the produce, capturing data on computers, and also engaging in digital marketing. Yes.
Kupitia papo hapo kwa masuala ya kidijitali, mnashirikisha vipi sasa yule mkulima na mnatumia teknolojia gani ndio mfikie yule mkulima?
Kama cooperative bank na sana sana pia kwa cooperatives vyama vya ushirika, simu tunajua penetration ya simu Kenya iko juu sana. Kwa hivyo cooperatives zetu zimekuwa pia digital. Mambo ya kutumia wakulima SMS kuwajulisha services zetu. Hata wakati pesa inakuja kuwajulisha kupitia mtandao. Tuko na online banking platform. Over 95% ya transactions za co-bank ziko kwa mtandao. Na cooperatives hawajabaki nyuma. Sana sana agricultural cooperatives. Kumbuka nimekuambia wafanyikazi wengi kwa cooperatives ni vijana. Kwa hivyo wao ndio wanaweka data ya wakulima kwa online banking. So malipo inakuwa ya mtandao. Tunalipa wakulima na M-Pesa. Wakulima wako na mobile app, you know. And interestingly, farmers, like our mobile app, we have biometric. We're able to capture their data biometric, facial recognition. Na hiyo yote vijana wale wanafanya kazi kwa cooperative ndio wanafanya hiyo kazi. Inaturahisisha kupeleka services za banking kwa wakulima.
Now, you have spoken about the importance of young people coming together, forming a cooperative, because also it takes away the need for collateral.
Exactly.
But as a young person who wants to do it individually, there are still loan products that they can get.
Yes.
Or as an individual.
Yes, of course there are. We have a youth banking department purposely focusing on youth banking, and it's youth engaged in whatever they're engaged in, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in sports. You know, we even have an athlete dedicated team. But for us, purposely, where I work in the bank in agriculture, we still serve the youth in their own individual capacity, but we have a bias to push them to form groups. You know, even the government, the Fifth Administration, has dedicated a whole ministry of cooperative with a minister, a cabinet secretary. They have dedicated a whole principal secretary for cooperative, a commissioner for cooperative. If you go to the counties, they have a whole machinery for cooperative. That's because we know, and it's a proven concept. For instance, if the farmers didn't come together in the 60s, we wouldn't have co-bank because it was one farmer. But in their togetherness from all over the country, they formed a critical mass to be able to establish a bank which has become one of the largest banks in the country. So we know if youth come together, they're going to be more bankable. They are going to access markets easily. For coffee specifically, it's an export produce majorly. How are you going to sell a few bags of coffee or a few kilos of coffee in Europe or United States if you're alone? But if you're many, and interestingly, even consumers, and we have seen that in the bank, we have development organization, international organization that have cheap loans or cheaper funding specifically for youth. But they have to really just come together, and we don't have to look for each youth, you know, but when they come together, they are visible.
All right. So you insist on the importance of forming a group and getting together to build part of a cooperative. We have, and I can't talk about youth. I can't be here without promoting cooperatives. It's a proven vehicle that makes it very easy for anybody to be supported. At least from a banking perspective, it's much easier. All right. Amazing insights from Miss Esther Kariuki, Head of Agricultural Cooperatives at CoBank, and clearly talking about the importance of young people coming together and being part of cooperatives if they want to succeed in the agricultural field. Good conversation we're having. We continue with the conversation, but now we take a short commercial break. It's also going to be an opportunity for you thereafter to find out what is happening in the agricultural sector, who is doing what. If you want to find out, don't go anywhere. You'll see all of that after this break. See you shortly.